have the 9 o'clock starting group, the youngest contestant ever. He's 5 years old. Eldrick Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods is the 100th U.S. Open champion in history.
Tiger Woods halfway to the slam.
The celebrity website TMZ released these photos of Tiger Woods' mangled car.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
Tiger Woods blew fans away everywhere he went, but nowhere was he ever as good as he was at Augusta National. 5 times he would bear that green jacket, and his journey to those titles, to that perfection, is one that every golfer should remember forever. Leading up to the '95 Masters, Tiger had failed to make a cut in his first 7 PGA Tour events as an amateur. And sure, he was still a kid, but everyone who watched him saw his talent for what it was. However, he was yet to really show what he could do against the best golfers in the world. Despite winning the US Junior Amateur in '91, '92, and '93, and then the US Amateur in '94, he was still just this kid with expectations on his shoulders. And now he was given the chance to change all of that. But could he do it? See, the Masters tournament has some special energy and excitement that nothing else can compare to. And for a lot of young players, that can prove to be just too much for them to perform. But for Tiger, I think all of that excitement that only the Masters can bring about helped him figure himself out, but that is not immediately. Tiger would go on to bomb his first drive down the hilly first hole that April morning, and got his second shot right on the green. Everything was going to plan. However, he promptly smashed his first putt so hard, it rolled off the green. Clearly, Tommy, his caddy, said the kid was very nervous. But from that point on, he found his groove, made bogey on that hole, and coasted his way to an even par split for the week, making the cut for the first time in a professional tournament by 1 stroke at none other than the Masters. For many players, that would have been a dream come true. But knowing the Tiger we have today, it's no surprise that he expected more of himself. After a difficult 5-over round on Saturday, Tiger birdied 3 of the last 4 holes on Sunday to walk into the clubhouse as the low amateur, with his 3rd even par score of the tournament. That day, Tiger told a reporter that Augusta National was the perfect place for him. He just needs to get to know it a little bit better. And oh boy, would he. But pure dominance was still a little bit down the line for young Tiger. This year, it would prove that it wasn't yet time for Woods to put everything together. After yet again winning the US Amateur in '95, Tiger was still that up-and-coming monster who had the world in front of him. During a practice round that year, he had been paired up with the legendary Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, and for a lot of people at that time, they probably thought they would never see a greater golfer than those two. However, the two legends themselves disagreed. After playing with Tiger Woods for just 1 round, Jack Nicklaus told a reporter that both Arnold and I agree, you could take my Masters and his Masters and add them together, and this kid should win more than that. He would go on to say,
I don't know if he's ready to win yet or not, but he will be the favorite here for the next 20 years. If he isn't, there's something wrong.
After going pro at the end of 1996, Tiger Woods likely believed he was ready to compete at the same level as all the best players in the world. We know Woods doesn't go into tournaments that he doesn't believe he can win, and so this was Tiger saying that he was here. He was ready to meet the prophecy that Jack Nicklaus had laid out for him a year earlier and win tournaments. Going into the Masters that year, Tiger had already won a minor PGA event, had been a runner-up at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, and finished in the top 35 in the Players' Championship just 2 weeks earlier. In 1997, the world was on the brink of Tiger mania, and that year's Masters would push it over the edge. Scalpers pushed the price of tickets to reportedly over $10,000 just so fans from all over could see the fresh-faced, big hitter named Tiger Woods. Energy around the Masters that year was just different. It was magical in a way it hadn't been before. But Tiger's approach that week was likely more different than anything else. See, going into the tournament, he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Not to prove anything to the world, but I think to prove to himself that he was the best in the world. Tiger's game was just coming together that week in a way it had never done yet in his young career. The week before the tournament, he shot a 59 in a match against another Futures Masters champion in Mark O'Meara, and it was clear he was ready, but the only question was, could the newly professional Tiger actually put it together on the biggest stage in the world? In reality, there were a lot of reasons to expect it to not exactly come together. Woods suffered a scare when he nearly lost his father in the months leading to the tournament, and he was still in precarious condition as the tournament approached. The man who had pushed him to become the best player in the world was suffering, and so a lot of people could have expected Tiger to suffer as well. However, instead of kneeling to the pressure, Tiger was actually refining his understanding of the course in a way that all of the best players ever had. Woods remembered everything that Greg Norman, Arnold Palmer, and all of the other greats had taught him in the past 2 years about Augusta National, and he added to that in his first practice round with Seve Ballesteros and Jose Maria Olazabal. All of the intricacies about where to hit it, how to play a shot was stored in his mind. However, nothing could prepare him for losing his swing entirely in the opening round of that week. The night before his Thursday opening round match, Tiger had gone to his father about not having his putting stroke down correctly. Something just felt off to him. So the two of them putt in the house, and the elder Woods gave him a tip or two, and Tiger woke up the next morning having it back. Clearly, the old man still had what it took to unlock his son despite his condition. Well, when Tiger went out onto the first tee that day, he heard his name announced as the reigning U.S. amateur and lost his swing. He bogeyed the first hole that day, and being paired up with the reigning Masters champion Nick Faldo, that couldn't have felt very good, and neither did the rest of that front nine. Tiger Woods finished the front 4 over par and well off the lead. That likely left a lot of viewers thinking that he wasn't exactly ready, still in a bit over his head. But as he has done over and over again in his career, Tiger was prepared to surprise us all. He found his form on the 10th tee and told himself to just get back to even par. From there, they could figure it all out on Friday. He birdied 10, 12, 13, and 17 and eagled 15. Woods walked into the clubhouse at Augusta National, his first day playing there as a professional, 2 under par. That round, he went 40 in the first 9 and 30 in the back 9. On Friday, Woods went on to pound out a 66, chipping it in for birdie on the par 5 third and driving the green on the 360-yard par 4 fourth. He had found his swing and his putting stroke, and he kept them. However, not to be outdone by his past self, Woods, already the leader by 3 strokes going into Saturday, shot a 65. From then on, Tiger was a dot on the horizon for the rest of the field. He had already won the 1997 Masters. The only question was now, how low could he go? Tiger Woods finished Sunday not only at a then record 18 under par, but also 12 strokes ahead than all of the other best golfers in the world. Tiger would go on to make the cut for the next 23 straight Masters tournaments he competed in, winning 5 of them, and I would love to tell a story of each, about how he never finished worse than 18th until 2012, or won consecutive championships in 01 and 02, or how he fought off Chris DeMarco for his 4th green jacket. But none of his miraculous Masters moments deserve more of a mention than his 2019 victory. Back surgery, scandals, and setbacks had plagued Tiger Woods for the past half-decade, and people said he would never win another major tournament.
Tiger Woods' woes are continuing. Gatorade is now dropping the golfer.
I mean, this is a guy who is no longer scaring anybody out there. Are you giving up on Tiger? I'm giving up on him ever winning anything ever again, yeah.
Tiger had once capitalized on his unparalleled work ethic and his incredible athletic ability to win the Masters. But this year, he had to do it differently. He wasn't the greatest golfer in the world anymore. He didn't have the putting stroke that he was once able to figure out late at night with his father, nor did he have the stamina or capacity to hit the ball 15 yards further than the rest of the field. But he had the experience this time. From everything he had learned in his 22 years prior at that tournament, and from everything he learned from Seve Ballesteros, Arnold Palmer, and Gary Player, to combine that to push him into contention for that final day at Augusta National. But the fact is, going into Sunday, Tiger sat 2 shots behind Molinari. Despite playing clean golf the entire tournament, he was still behind. And he had never in his illustrious career come from behind to win a major. And now he needed to do it, to set destiny in its place at the oldest he had ever been, perhaps the weakest he had been in years. On Sunday, Tiger put together a tidy first 9 holes. He played clean golf and worked with the setbacks as they came, which were inevitable considering the course was so windy that day. However, all this quiet stalking put Tiger in a perfect place to strike whenever the chance opened up for him. And after Molinari double bogeyed the 12th, Tiger saw his opportunity. However, with 6 holes to go, Tiger was still far from winning this tournament, as he was tied with 2 other players for the lead and had 8 other players within 2 strokes of them. From that point on, Tiger would go on to birdie 3 of the last 6, and he kept pace just ahead of Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, and Xander Schauffele to win his 5th Masters title despite bogeying 18. At the end of the day, 7 golfers were within 2 shots of him. But Tiger Woods had not only the knowledge to know exactly how to play the course that day, but in those final moments, he found the ability to as well. Everything stood in his way, but the years of learning about himself and adapting to Augusta and maybe a little bit of magic created, in my opinion, the greatest moment, at least in the golf history that I have seen. The greatest achievement in golf, the Grand Slam, has never been completed in the modern era. No golfer has ever been able to win the Masters, the PGA Championship, the US Open, and the British Open in a single calendar year. But Tiger Woods is the only man in history to ever hold those titles at a single time. However, his year-long journey to that achievement required every bit of his ability to overcome drama, legendary golfers, and injury until the very last Sunday. So every amateur golfer needs to know this story. The Grand Slam title was first coined in 1930 when legendary amateur Bobby Jones won all 4 of the major championships in golf at the time: the US Open, the Open Championship, the US Amateur, and the British Amateur. Since then, people have been close, but were never able to fully grasp the golf world themselves, and that's the nature of golf. No matter how good one shot is, you have to keep that perfect throughout 70 others to win a day. For professionals, they have to do that for 280 shots in a tournament. And for someone to win a Grand Slam, they have to do that over 4 separate weeks while competing against all of the best golfers in the world. By 2000, Tiger Woods had been right up there for years, with David Duval, Ernie Els, and Greg Norman fighting for that #1 spot. Everyone knew he was special. Jack Nicklaus said it, fans saw it, and Tiger knew it. But he still really needed to prove it to the world, and probably more importantly to himself, that he could do something no professional golfer has, especially when the field was as good as it was at the turn of the century. But to open up the 2000 season, Tiger Woods would have one of his biggest battles yet. The Mercedes Championship in 2000 gave Tiger Woods the chance to win his 5th consecutive tour event and set the new year, a chance to win at 4 majors, moving in the right direction. He had been working on a swing change with Butch Harmon in 1998 that kept him from really finding his feet until the end of the following year, but now his swing seems to feel better than ever. Yes, probably even better than the swing that won him the 1997 Masters by 12 strokes. He was on a roll now, and everyone else there was just trying their best to stop Tiger Woods, and Ernie Els did just about everything he could that Sunday in Kapalua. Walking onto 18 that day, Tiger and Ernie Els were in a tie for first, 2 shots ahead of 3rd place David Duval with everything on the line. So both went for it, creating one of the most incredible final hole pushes in history. 2 perfect drives down the middle of a lengthy, trouble-filled par 5. Tiger slams his approach shot from far out to close to 15 feet. Ernie steps up from a bit closer and hooked it to within 10 feet. Now, it was a putt off to win, and they didn't disappoint. Woods slammed his putt in, celebrated with the hardest fist pump I've seen in a very long time, and everything seemed to be going his way. But the ever-present Ernie Els wasn't ready to let this kid shine yet, casually sliding his putt in to push the tournament to a playoff. The Tiger would go on a win on the second playoff hole, but he needed a 40-foot putt to do so. But more important than his trophy or his 5th consecutive win, this tournament would set the tone for the rest of the season. Testy, tight tournaments between the world's best players and the world's best player. It was Tiger versus everybody else, and they didn't do a very good job of stopping him. By April, Tiger won 3 events and came in second 3 more times of 7 events total. For all intents and purposes, this was Tiger's master to lose. But he barely made the cut, sneaking just 1 stroke ahead of the 4-over cut line. However, he made a tidy comeback, slotting himself to 5th with a 3rd round 68 and a final round 69 to place himself just 6 strokes back of a very impressive Vijay Singh. Yet again, Tiger competed and impressed despite not necessarily being at the top of the leaderboard. And for a lot of professional golfers, losing that way is very normal. Informed guys cannot keep it consistent forever. Even the best players we've seen fall off at some point. You can't win every single tournament, and so 6 strokes off the lead wasn't inordinary, even for Tiger at the time. But for the rest of the year, that's about as far from the lead as he would get, and Tiger Mania only took off from there. In his next tournament at the Byron Nelson Classic, Tiger came from a stroke behind the 3 leaders, all thanks to a final round 63, the best score that day. That insane form followed into his next tournament, winning by 5 strokes and putting him in a fantastic position for the next biggest tournament of the year and maybe his most impressive win of all of them, the US Open at Pebble Beach. That week, Tiger had the opportunity to slam the door shut on all of his so-called rivals and haters by showing up at probably the most storied location of the United States Open. And to say he shut the door, well, that would be an understatement. On Thursday, he walked out on that windy, water-fenced course and dropped a clubhouse-leading 65 to stamp his name at the top of the leaderboard that would stay there for the remainder of the week. He followed that up with a joint low 67 in the second round that amazed viewers and discouraged competitors, putting him 6 strokes clear of the rest of the pack. When Tiger was on, it was one-man golf, as Ray Rotto from the San Francisco Examiner described it. Usually, to most people, the most thrilling events are when there's a battle for the trophy, for the title, and fans can't look away to risk missing the moment someone finally pulls away. But everyone was watching now for a different reason, to see what the craziest talent in golf would do and witness just how low he could actually go. After authoring the Sunday low round of 67, Tiger walked into the clubhouse to cheers as he cleared the rest of the pack and second-placed finisher Ernie Els yet again by 15 strokes.
And Tiger Woods is the 100th US Open champion in history.
Woods finished the week at 12 under par, and the next best score was 3 over. That was an incredible feat in and of itself, but combined with what was to come, well, it would look all the more impressive. Following his impossible run at the US Open at Pebble, Tiger walked up to the first tee at the Open Championship at its most legendary venue, St. Andrews, ready to do, well, pretty much exactly the same thing. But this time, stakes were just a little bit higher. Not only could he win another trophy and impress all over again, but he could complete the career Grand Slam just as all the guys Tiger's father had trained him to be better than his entire life had done as well. 67, 66, 67, 69. Tiger finished 8 strokes ahead of the rest of the pack, and second place yet again, Ernie Els. And after the round, all Ernie had to say was that this guy is unbelievable. Man, I'm running out of words. Give me a break. Throughout history, and especially today, a lot of golfers aren't able to put it together when it matters the most, when the pressure is most on, specifically in majors. There's so much competition, and it keeps a lot of great golfers from making the ascension to the level of the real greats. 2000's Tiger Woods was the exact opposite. He turned it on when it mattered the most and managed the season around the Opens, the green jackets, and the big trophies. But he would need to harness all of that ability to win this year's PGA Championship, because for the first time since the Mercedes Championship in January, Tiger's lead would be pushed to its limits. Going into the 2000 PGA at Valhalla Golf Club in Louisville, Tiger had his chance to defend his title from the previous year and become the first golfer since Ben Hogan in 1953 to win 3 majors in the same calendar year. But this one wouldn't be so easy, and that's because Bob May would have one of the most miraculous weeks throughout his entire career. And sure, beforehand you might say that going into the PGA Championship, he was sitting around 50th in the world golf rankings and Tiger was better than ever. Surely he would never have a chance, but May had something that no one in the field had against Tiger. Confidence. At the time, when guys saw Tiger sliding up the leaderboards, they had been known to crumble under that pressure of sustaining a lead ahead of this alien from Southern California. But Bob May was also from Southern California and had been playing against Tiger since he was very young. I once said Phil Mickelson was Tiger's greatest rival, but I suppose it might have been Bob. At least it was this day. Growing up, even though May was 7 years older than Tiger, Tiger's elite level often paired them up against each other in amateur events, where they both snuck out wins on the other. It would take every little bit of confidence from him to beat Tiger this day. With the Sunday tee time approaching, Tiger placed himself in first yet again. It was yet again his tournament to lose, but you probably could have said that before the entire thing started as well. However, this time, he was only a stroke ahead of the pack, with 4 golfers within 3 strokes, and one of them being the man who may have been more prepared to take him on than anyone else in history could have been at the time. Bob May sat just 1 stroke behind Tiger and pushed him to the end, all thanks to his approach that others didn't have. When asked by Golf.com after the round if he had been intimidated like so many others had, May calmly responded, "Honestly, I wasn't. I knew Tiger was the most dominant golfer in the world, and I respected that." He would go on to say, "The biggest thing that helped me was understanding he was going to play a different course than I was." Some of the guys who had fallen to Tiger in the past were big hitters who tried to slug it out with him, and I think it caught up with them. That wasn't my mindset. I told myself I was going to play my game, which I knew was good enough to go to war with. And, well, Bob was right. He fought alongside Tiger throughout the entire 18 holes, trading birdie for birdie with him and beating him on the round with a 66 thanks to a 15-foot putt on 18, followed by a pressure-packed 5-footer from Tiger to force a playoff. Throughout their 3-hole playoff, they played tidy golf, highlighted by Tiger running after a birdie putt on the first hole. That would end up being the only difference between the two of them that week. With that putt, Tiger won his 2nd consecutive PGA Championship, 3rd consecutive major, and 7th victory of the season. For the remainder of the year, Tiger was basically perfect, winning 2 of the final events he competed in and finishing in the top 5 for all of them. However, he slipped up and Phil Mickelson snuck out in front of him on the first hole in the final round of the Tour Championship with a birdie and never looked back. Tiger had, for the first time in his incredible career, failed to complete a win when being the 54-hole leader, and doubts of his ability to continue this incredible run of form finally began to sink in and actually gain some ground. Tiger had, not for the first time I should add, history going against him in 2001. When Ben Hogan won his Triple Crown, he never won a major again. Sure, he was 41 at the time, but when Arnold Palmer nearly won 3 majors in 1962, as he lost the US Open to Jack Nicklaus that year, he followed it with a big goose egg in 1963. On top of that, Tiger had a bit of an injury scare in January. During the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, Tiger Woods stepped on the foot of a fan and so had to reposition his front foot when addressing the ball due to all of the pain. Any change in a swing can have major factors in play, as I'm sure all of you know too well. And at the time, Tiger was driving the ball wildly relative to how he had the entirety of 2000. This year, it was far from certain who would come into the clubhouse green on Masters Sunday. To start that week, energy was about as Tiger Mania-esque as it would ever get. Fans and players knew what was on the line, but that didn't stop the pros from showing out to win the green jacket for themselves. Tiger walked into the clubhouse Thursday with a first-round 70, a fine first score, and historically, Tiger has never put incredible numbers up the first day at Augusta, but the rest of the field was looking pretty intimidating. With Chris DeMarco at 7 under, Tiger was 15 places back. And yet, I don't think there was any doubt at Augusta in Tiger's mind or in any of the pros' mind about the run Woods would go on from there. A 66 on Friday immediately jolted the Giant to second in the table, tied with Phil Mickelson and 2 strokes back of DeMarco. Going into the weekend, the leaderboard was ripe with talent on Tiger's tail, with ever-hungry David Duval in 4th, 2-time Master champ Jose Maria in 2 strokes back, and a whole lot more golf to play. But shooting a 68 in the 3rd round saw Tiger jump to the front, while Phil Mickelson, DeMarco, Duval, and Ernie Els all sat within 3 strokes. Going into the final round at Augusta, the number 1 player in the world led the number 2 player in the world by 1 stroke. And it all came down to 18 holes, a year-long journey for the Slam, a career-long battle for supremacy, and a lifelong fight for perfection, pushed to capture headlines forever. That day would not be a runaway victory like at St. Andrews the year before, but was a clean and hard-fought battle that saw Tiger play great golf again, striking a 68, putting him at 16 under for the tournament, winning his 4th major in the last 4, and being the first golfer in history to hold each title at a single time. One was a charismatic country club kid, the kind of player that had graced the golf world for over a century. The other was a quiet Muni kid with a mind like no other and an ability never before seen. Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson couldn't have been much more different, yet they shared the stage at the summit of golf for a quarter century, and that forced a brutal rivalry that has taken a toll on each of their legacies ever since the very beginning. In golf, we don't see a ton of rags to riches stories. At least, we didn't see a ton of them in the 90s. Sure, there were a few, but nothing like we experienced with baseball or basketball, and so there's never been a ton of focus on the early lives of golfers because they're generally very similar. Golfing father growing up at a country club with every opportunity viable in front of the kid. Phil Mickelson, well, is almost a perfect example of that. He grew up in San Diego and Scottsdale, Arizona. His father, being an airline pilot and real estate investor, had plenty of time to teach him the game, and his grandfather was a caddy at Pebble Beach. By no means did he grow up with everything at his footsteps, but it's a story we've definitely heard before, but you can't really say the same for Tiger. Now, Woods' father had been an elite athlete before, and just like Phil's dad, was a veteran, but that's really where the similarities ended. Tiger grew up playing at public courses and a Navy course in California where his father turned him into a golf robot effectively. He was programmed to break all of Jack Nicklaus's records and win everything in golf from a very early age, and on his way to becoming a pro, he eventually did that, even outshadowing an already professional Phil Mickelson while coming up as an amateur. In the early 1990s, the Mickelson name was gathering hype as he climbed up the rankings at Arizona State. He won 3 individual NCAA championships, became the first left-hand golfer to win the U.S. Amateur in 1990, and won a PGA Tour event even before he went professional in January 1991.
I am getting some airtime, all right?
Young Phil snagged a lot of headlines and looked to be a very big name for a long time in golf. And then a scrawny teenager started really picking up momentum.
You have to make a putt, you make a putt. You have to hit the shot, you hit the shot. You just sort of like drop into another zone and you block out everything.
Tiger Woods, his insane mentality and wild athleticism grabbed the world by storm and grabbed the title of the next big thing kind of right out from under Phil. Tiger won 3 straight U.S. Junior Amateurs, followed that up with 3 straight U.S. Amateurs while also being the Low-Am in the 1995 Masters. And from there, Tiger Mania took over the world and distracted people from Phil Mickelson.
Tiger Woods Mania, the golf superstar.
Tiger Mania.
Tiger Woods Mania officially has arrived at the Copperhead course.
I don't think I have to remind anyone of how incredible Tiger was in those early years. In 1997, Woods won the Masters by a then record 12 strokes, and 2 months later set another record in the fastest ascent to world's #1 in golf history.
12 under in his last 27 holes, prompting 6-time Masters champ Jack Nicklaus to utter, quote, "He's playing a type of golf we are not familiar with."
I felt ready to go. Probably actually too ready to go. When Thursday came around, I was too fired up, but I'll settle down, and I'm playing well now.
You know, obviously, he's setting a standard right now. It's very difficult for anybody to keep up with.
In 2000, he won 6 straight PGA Tour events and, well, almost won a 7th, and would have if it weren't for Phil Mickelson. He beat Tiger by 4 strokes to win that year's Buick Invitational in La Jolla, California. At that point, despite them both being prominent players for a few years, that rivalry really started to take shape. Though not necessarily grabbing all the headlines, he was always competing, but just not winning at least as much as Tiger was. However, Phil was often very close to him in tournaments, and that left a lot of people questioning what Phil's career could have been like if he hadn't come up with the greatest game changer golf had ever seen. There was the 2001 Arnold Palmer Invitational, where Tiger broke a slump of 5 tournaments without a win by outlasting an in-form Mickelson by 1 stroke with a birdie on 18 on Sunday. That set him on the path of winning 4 of his next 5 events, including the 2001 Masters, where he made it 4 straight major victories. Then came the 2002 US Open, where the crowd took on a wet and rainy Bethpage Black that saw Woods end the week being the only player under par in the field, while Phil slipped into second yet again, despite having the crowd overwhelmingly on his side. This made Phil Mickelson 0-40 in his career in majors, while Woods had gone and won everything. Tiger was on top of the world with Phil Mickelson in his shadow.
Tiger Woods halfway to the slam and his second U.S. Open championship.
Going into 2004, Mickelson had 17 top 10 finishes in majors, and yet hadn't won a single time. Tiger in that same period had won 8. It wasn't even really much of a comparison yet. That is until Phil secured his green jacket in the 2004 Masters, beating Ernie Els by 1 stroke at the Great Augusta National. At this point, Tiger was undergoing his second major swing overhaul in 5 years and was relatively struggling. He'd go on to lose the world #1 spot to Vijay Singh at the end of the year, and Phil picked up some momentum from there. For the first time in 4 years, Phil Mickelson won 4 tour events, including the PGA Championship. He was gaining some ground. He had finally won majors, and he was taking control of golf, right? Well, not exactly. Tiger began regaining his form, walking out of 2005 with 6 tournament wins and 2 majors. Even when Phil began gaining ground, Tiger dragged him back to being, at most, second best. However, everything changed in 2009.
The celebrity website TMZ released these photos of Tiger Woods' mangled car, but for the 3rd time, Woods refused to speak to investigators to explain the 2:30 a.m. accident just past his driveway.
But it wasn't a member of the media who issued the strongest condemnation of his behavior. It was, instead, the fellow pro who'd introduced Woods and his wife 8 years ago.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
For one of the first times in his very long career, Woods voluntarily took a step away from golf. And you'd think this would be a great time for Phil Mickelson to take advantage. He was Tiger's rival, right? Shouldn't it be his turn now? Well, he did perform, winning the Tour Championship in 2009 and the Masters the following year, but it wasn't a complete takeover, the one some people might have expected since he had rivaled Tiger for so long.
In the past 2 decades, Mickelson finished second 5 times at the U.S. Open. This year, he already won the Masters and is creeping closer to that coveted #1 ranking.
Everybody who plays golf as a professional is motivated to try to become #1.
In 2010, after winning the Masters, Phil was in a very good position to become the top-ranked player in golf. He was one of the favorites to win that year's U.S. Open at Pebble Beach, and after after going 75-66 in the first 2 rounds, was in pretty good position to do so. He went into the weekend just 2 shots back from the lead, but 2 73s were only good enough for a joint 4th place finish. The rest of the season saw more disappointing finishes, eventually allowing Lee Westwood to grab that number 1 spot. Despite his failures the year before, 2011 would come with one major bright spot for all the Tiger vs. Phil rivalry proponents, with Mickelson sliding ahead of Tiger to 3rd place in the world golf rankings, while Woods fell to 7th for the first time since the 1997 Masters. However, those expectations of him finally superseding Tiger wouldn't come to anything, as putting problems and inconsistency plagued the rest of the 36-year-old's year. Phil proves to be great, but even without Tiger being Tiger, Mickelson was unable to grab the reins of the tour the way younger Tiger had. As the 2010s came around, they were filled with very little from these two so-called rivals. They were older and slower and struggled to compete with the likes of Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, or Dustin Johnson. For a lot of people, their time was over. And then Tiger went and won the 2019 Masters, perhaps the greatest golf win of all time. It seemingly ended the story of the GOAT and Phil Mickelson and their rivalry. But that wouldn't exactly be the case, because with Phil, even though he was 5 years older than Tiger, wasn't done either. In 2021, Mickelson became the oldest major champion in golf history when he held off Brooks Koepka and Louis Oosthuizen to win the PGA Championship by 2 strokes. For many people with their special relationship to Phil Mickelson because of how well he treated so many fans, they hold this victory as potentially even more important to them than the 2019 Masters victory for Tiger. But realistically, since that point, since Phil won in 2021, this rivalry has only been about Phil. In 2022, he made the crazy money move to LIV, where a lot of people thought he would retire after a long career, and then he came back and had the performance of the tournament in the 2023 Masters, finishing with a final round 65 to come in just 4 strokes back of Jon Rahm. While Tiger, well, he withdrew after barely making the cut. Phil's consistency yet again has shown through, that despite being in his mid-50s, he's still able to compete with the best, while Tiger Woods has been wildly quiet. This brutal rivalry was once so hard on Phil, as Tiger took over the world while Mickelson was in what was supposed to be his prime. But now everything has flipped, as this consistency that Phil has shown us golf viewers something that Tiger wasn't able to do. Phil Mickelson was very similar to the great golfers of decades past, with his childhood and now with his entire career. A lot of great golfers compete well into their 40s and beyond, but Tiger, well, he wasn't exactly like that, at least consistency. He built a swing that was unsustainable for longevity. However, that swing created game-changing moments, literally having courses lengthened because of him, and a pure dominance the game will probably never see again. Having the two of them compete together for so many years gave us this wild contrast between history and Phil and the future in Tiger. But my question is, whose career would you rather have?
Tiger Woods had everything in his prime. Great performances, crazy brand deals, and a beautiful wife. From 1999 to 2004, Woods went on a run of achievements that will likely never be seen again. But Tiger was known for breaking all expectations even after his prime, which nearly led him to breaking his own biggest accomplishment several times. And this is one of those stories, but buckle up because this is also one of his saddest moments as well. Going into the 2006 PGA Tour season, Tiger Woods was seemingly back to his very best. After 3 rocky years in a row where he went 0-10 in majors from 2002 to 2004, Tiger and swing instructor Hank Haney had finally come to grips with a swing change they could be happy with for the time being, and it showed. Tiger's 2005 had ended in absolutely ridiculous fashion, as he won the Masters and the Open Championship and was just 4 strokes in total away from winning both the US Open and the PGA Championship that year. He had been close to a Grand Slam before, but now he, for the first time really, but as we go on to know, not for the last time, crawled his way out from the trenches to establish himself above everyone else when he was playing his best golf. And he flew into 2006 with that form, winning the Buick Invitational in January. Fast forwarding to March, and Tiger was accepting yet another trophy for a championship at Doral, putting him in prime position to take the Players' Championship on later that month. But this is where I think everything started to unravel for him. See, Tiger's father, Earl Woods, the man who more or less built Tiger into the robot he was, had been fighting cancer for years. Now, his father's illness hadn't affected Tiger's performances before, as Tiger won the Masters in 2005 for the first time without his father there due to his illness. But by 2006, Earl was just getting much worse, and that finally began affecting the way Tiger was playing.
When Dad was sick, he really said some pretty outlandish things, but I took it personal.
Apparently, there was some sort of fight between Tiger and his father, and that created a lot of animosity between the two, severing their relationship and hurting Tiger's performances going through the year. In March, Tiger placed 20 at Bay Hill and followed it with a 22nd place at the Players. Combined with a withdrawal earlier in the year, the signs were beginning to show that something was off for Tiger, even if he had won twice already that year. And that all led to the 2006 Masters, the chance for him to recover his form, show everyone that the same prime Tiger that we had all seen and loved once was back, but it wasn't so easy for Woods that week. Tiger was able to play safe golf for the first 3 rounds, going into Sunday at 2 under, just 2 strokes back of the lead. The truth is, he had never come back from behind to win a major before, only ever leading from the front and usually dominating the field from there. But with the chaotic conditions that week, I'm sure a lot of people were expecting a big run from Tiger, and on Sunday, he put himself in prime position to do that. However, honestly, he played lamely relative to what I'm sure everyone expected. He striked the ball the best he had ever at Augusta, but could not putt for anything. It could have very easily been a different story, but his play on the greens was about as bad as it had ever been. Tiger missed 2 eagle putts from within 10 feet, 3 putted 3 times, and missed 3 birdie putts all on the front 9 on Sunday. After the round, Tiger said to a reporter, "I felt so much control on my ball from tee to green. It's the best I've hit it in years, but I absolutely lost out there on the greens." He ended that day with a few words about his father probably not being happy with how he putted from watching him on TV, and from there I'm sure his loss by just 2 strokes took the news over. But it's in that conversation, in those words about his father, that offers us a little bit more insight into what was actually going on in the mind of the great Tiger Woods at the time.
He was my best friend, and you know, having your best friend be your father is a very unique thing.
If we look deeper into the relationship between Earl and Tiger, it hasn't always been the best. Tiger clearly idolizes his father and appreciates everything he did for him from what he says about him today, but the truth is, his parents were always incredibly hard on him. That family had this idea of what Tiger would become, and they would not let him divert from that plan, even if some of his choices could have been very healthy for him. When he had a girlfriend through high school and college, he allegedly escaped to her house often where he could relax because of all the chaos there. But when Tiger one day left college early without telling his parents to see his girlfriend, they were outraged and made him put a stop to it. That girl was just too much of a risk for them. Them having kids at that young of an age was not in Tiger's parents' plans for the young man, and so Woods had to do what his parents told him, even though he was 19 years old. The way they raised him deserves a video in and of itself, but the main takeaway here is that Tiger was relatively sheltered as a kid, and his parents, alongside the game of golf, were his world. But now, Tiger Woods lost part of that world. On May 3rd, 2006, Earl Woods passed away at the age of 74, not only leaving Tiger without his father, but leaving him on a bad note as well. They had been fighting at the time, and so Tiger may not have been able to say all the things he wanted, straining their relationship and deeply affecting his abilities on the course, as I'm sure we can all understand. How is he supposed to focus on tournaments when he had just lost the man who taught him everything, who made it possible for Tiger Woods to become the best? Well, Tiger couldn't do it, and it turns out that that Masters he had failed to take control of in the so many moments that he had to do so was the last tournament his father would ever see him play in. After taking a month off from golf, Tiger walked into the 2006 US Open at Winged Foot and walked out 2 days later, missing the cut by 3 strokes and ending his record-tying streak of 39 consecutive cuts made in majors. Tiger wasn't able to put it together through his struggle. No clear ability on the course could overpower the pain he was clearly suffering, and rightly so. But then, something happened and a switch was flicked inside of Tiger Woods. We've seen throughout the years Tiger entertain a certain flow state, one that led him to the Tiger Slam and brought him a 15th major despite all the odds against him. But in 2006, I think it was something else, something that Tiger likes to call having his father as his 15th club on the course. And that, well, brought him into a phase that was arguably and very nearly his best run of form ever seen in his entire career. Going into the 2006 Open Championship at Royal Liverpool Golf Club, as per usual, all eyes were on Tiger Woods. Could he come back? Could he recover his form? Or would we see another fumble like earlier that year? Golf pundits claimed that the sporting world needed Tiger of old back, needed him to meet with the top of the pack at Liverpool because that's what brought fans around and inspired interest in the sport. They claimed that golf was diminished without Tiger Woods in it, but in it, Woods would be that July. Leading to the Open, Woods had already turned in a solid second place finish at that year's Western Open, recovering from the US Open pretty well and was priming his starter. The only question was how hot would he come out of the gates? Thursday, 67. With a very strong field, all putting in good performances, Tiger dropped a 5-under score that put him in second place and reassured everyone that Tiger could play great golf again. But this time, his great golf looked a little bit different than it used to. For years, Woods had led to the great lengthening of golf courses to combat his massive length off the tee, but at the Open this year, his game took on a whole new image. He dropped his driver and chose to play different as the fiery fairways were seeing balls roll 350 yards into no man's land. Tiger would need his elite ball striking that we had seen at the Masters earlier that year, just hopefully he would putt well on top of it. Friday, 7 under 65. Tiger Woods was now leading the pack, and that stat of him never losing a major after leading for 36 holes was looming over his head yet again. With Ernie Els, Chris DeMarco, and a whole host of others hanging just a few shots back, well, Woods would have to be the very best Tiger to finish off the field that week. Saturday, 71. A tamer round from Tiger Saturday saw Sergio Garcia, Els, and DeMarco fall into a tie for second, just one stroke behind Woods. Viewers from all over clung to their seats because Tiger had failed to put the competition away, and his record seems to be on the brink. After all, with what he had to deal with earlier that year, anything could happen to him. But as the sun set on Sunday, Tiger Woods slammed his head into the shoulder of caddy Steve Williams as he celebrated his 2-stroke victory after a clean round of 67. There he earned himself his 11th major title under incredible circumstances with a different game plan than the norm, and man was he elite while doing it. He led the tournament with 86% of fairways hit and was second with 81% of greens in regulation. Tiger Woods held off frustration through countless crowd distractions as they all wanted a picture of Woods winning again, leading to some pretty funny clips of Williams yelling at them. But Tiger did it, and did it for his father. Go watch the final putt if you don't know what I'm talking about. But this was all just the beginning of the true insanity of near golf perfection that was yet to come that year. 2 weeks later, Tiger competed in the Buick Open, which he won at 24 under, placing him in prime position to be prepped for the PGA Championship. Thursday, 69. Nice. Tiger was in solid position, not the leader by any means, but it was a safe position to be in nonetheless. Friday, 68. With a bogey-free second round, Tiger was sailing, playing clean golf, and sitting just one stroke back of the lead, which he would take on Saturday. 7 under 65. That day, Tiger matched the course record and gaining himself the share of the lead while he was at it, and the ability to go into Sunday just like he had so many times before and run away with it, which is exactly what happened. Sunday, 68. After yet another incredibly clean round of golf, Tiger easily saw off the rest of the pack, finishing 5 strokes ahead of the next best and lifting his second consecutive major trophy while quietly shooting the then second lowest score in a major to his 2000 Open victory at St. Andrews. That week, he only had 3 bogeys, and pundits were watching him play in awe. Seeing Tiger win now was like deja vu to what they had seen when he put in the single greatest performance during the Tiger Slam and was leading many people to think he was swinging it or at least competing better than he ever was. Managing majors was his specialty, but Tiger went on to dominate everything else for the rest of the year as well. Tiger competed in 4 more tournaments to round out 2006, all of which he won, bringing his purse total to nearly $10 million in a year where he faced his biggest hurdle of his career up to that point, and walking away with 2 major victories while he was at it. Tiger was just 2 strokes and a mourning-filled cut away from winning the Grand Slam that year. Sure, that's a lot to ask for, but it just goes to show you how good he truly was then, even with everything going on. And if we zoom out a little bit more, it gets even more impressive. Throughout 2007, Tiger won 7 official tour events while competing in 16. He also won the PGA Championship, came second in the Masters by 1 stroke, and second in the US Open by another 1 stroke. Now, if we zoom out to the 2005, 2006, and 2007 season, everything gets really ridiculous for Tiger's stats. His 2005 Masters win started a ridiculous streak. In the 2005 US Open, he lost by 2 strokes. Then in the 2005 Open Championship, he won. The 2005 PGA Championship, he lost by 2 strokes. In the 2006 Masters, he did the same. But then when he was mourning his father, he was cut from the US Open that year. However, he came back, as we know, winning the Open Championship and the PGA Championship that year. In the 2007 Masters, he lost by 1 stroke. And then in the 2007 US Open, again, he lost by 1 stroke. That means that Tiger was just 8 strokes and 1 tragedy-filled tournament away from 10 straight major wins. That's not to say making up that ground is easy by any means, as Jack Nicklaus finished in 2nd in majors more than he actually won them. But I just wanted to throw this period of seasons into the ring for one of the most dominant eras in Tiger's history, and one we should remember right alongside 1999 and 2000. He did all of this against all odds with the loss of his father, and that deserves so much credit, it's unbelievable. Tiger Woods has been elite in majors his entire career, embarrassing opponents and destroying the competition. But if I told you that effectively a nobody broke the greatest golfer of all time, would you believe me? Well, in 2009, we saw exactly that when we witnessed someone out Tiger Woods. Going into the 2009 PGA Tour season, the future for Tiger was very uncertain. He was still recovering from an ACL surgery that he had the year prior after winning the US Open at Torrey Pines with 2 stress fractures in his leg.
Tiger Woods announced today he will undergo surgery to repair a torn ligament in his left knee.
Well, a torn ACL is a real common injury to have, but it can send even the biggest athletes straight to the sideline.
No one knew how he was going to perform, and it seemed like his prime years were in the rearview mirror. However, Tiger knew otherwise. As Tiger had done his entire career, he worked on a swing that could work with his body, combining with Hank Haney to develop a confidence-inducing swing. And with his limited mobility in the months after surgery, he had plenty of time to work on his short game, something that he would need to compensate for the lack of athleticism he once had. But no matter what was going on with his swing or his body, he was still Tiger Woods and would do anything to find that perfect swing to help him win trophies, and that's exactly what he did that season. It did take him a few months to find his footing, but Tiger showed the world that he was back at the end of March in the Arnold Palmer Invitational. That week, he effectively put on a clinic of competitive play the same way he had the years before, rolling a 16-foot putt in for birdie on the final hole on Sunday to walk into the clubhouse with his first win since coming back. He had been behind Sean O'Hare since the 2nd round, but mounted an elite comeback to bring in yet again more silverware for his tremendous trophy cabinet. People used to say that pros tended to falter when they saw Tiger's name chasing them down on Sunday. But later that year, it would be Tiger who would falter to a name few people had ever heard. But the significance of that is only truly understood after seeing just how good Tiger was for the rest of that season. From April to August that year, Tiger had 8 top 8 finishes in the 9 events he competed in, with 4 of them being wins. He had found his swing again and had also found a deadly consistency. The only problem was he wasn't finding that consistency when it mattered in majors. See, Woods was playing very well and mixed days of good ball striking with other days of great short game finesse, but those stars didn't always align as much as they once had. Normally, Tiger was elite all year round, and especially in the majors. But this year, the story was a little bit different. In the Masters, his putter wasn't there in the early rounds to save him, and his score on Sunday wasn't enough to push him past the leaders to find the top of the podium, ending in 6th place. At the Players 1 month later, his putter held him back yet again, 8th place. On Long Island at Bethpage Black, the US Open was teased away from him as a first-round 74 kept Tiger yet again away from stealing the title away despite a very clean final 3 rounds. 6th place. And at the Open, the story only got worse as Tiger missed the cut by a stroke, finishing outside the top 10 in a stroke play event for the first time in 2 years on the PGA Tour. Even though Tiger was in form and would go on to earn his 2nd or 3rd highest purse total at the end of the year, he wasn't consistent enough to win him the trophies that mattered the most, which is effectively unheard of from this Tiger. He had won a major every single year since 2004, and Tiger may have said that he felt better than ever, but he didn't show it on the biggest of stages. However, he finally put it together at the start of the PGA Championship. That entire year, his biggest hurdle had been reading the course on the first day out. When he got a feel for it and meshed it into his robot-like mind, well, he could get into that Tiger zone again, which is what he seemed to do at the 91st PGA Championship at Hazeltine National Golf Club, Thursday.
Tiger continues his tear as he goes for 3 in a row.
Tiger pounded out the best score of the day, which included a bogey-free round to go with his 5 birdies, leading reigning champ Padraig Harrington by a stroke and looking like the same Tiger that was ready to devour the competition. 67. On Saturday, Tiger ran away from the pack after finishing with 3 straight birdies on the back 9, giving him a 4-shot lead, his largest since the British Open in 2005, which he won by 5 strokes. 70. With the course being played long, one of the longest in history in fact, and Friday's windy conditions, Tiger's competition just couldn't keep up that day, and the guy was 8-0 in majors when leading after 36 holes. He never lost a tournament when ahead by 4 going into the final 2 rounds, and was pointed to win his 15th major. However, despite Tiger proving that he had the form to look like prime Tiger yet again, he didn't make the same decisions that week that prime Tiger probably would have. On Saturday, the normally lethal Tiger Woods adapted a tame approach instead, opting to play very safely. Some probably would have said smartly to support his lead. 71. Tiger didn't chase some random score to be the best like he had at Pebble Beach or the Masters in 1997 to go very low. That allowed others to chase him down. Instead of taking risky shots at the pin, he took a 2-putt wherever he could get it and held confidence that his lead was already enough to get him through. Lag putting was the Saturday story for Tiger, but the rest of the field, specifically Harrington and PGA Tour newcomer Y.E. Yang, were ready to pounce. In 2009, Tiger made it seem like he was finding his prime again, and his performances at times showed that he could. But something was off, and it would take one incredibly steadfast South Korean to bring Tiger back down to earth himself. Y.E. Yang, now referred to as the Tiger Killer by some, had only won a single time on the PGA Tour in 2009's Honda Classic, which helped him earn qualification for that year's PGA Championship. However, he wasn't exactly a nobody like I'm leading you to believe. Yang was a consistent competitor on the Asian, Korean, and European tours leading up to 2009, but only received his PGA Tour card through Q School in 2008 at 36 years old. To be fair, he had already beat Tiger Woods in an event leading up to that, grabbing the HSBC Champions Tournament trophy from him in November 2006. He was a veteran of the game, even if he hadn't always been at the very top level. But on Sunday at Hazeltine, well, Yang looked more like prime Tiger than Tiger Woods did. Yang exuded everything that the golf world has always attributed to its greats, Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods, that cutthroat competitive culture that powered them to be the best. On Sunday, it pushed Yang to put in one hell of a showing. Now, I wouldn't exactly say he was cutthroat, but he was easygoing and comfortable in a way that Well, Tiger Woods wasn't. But that doesn't mean Sunday was easy for any of them. That day it was clear nobody was going to go on a crazy scoring run like we had seen the days prior from some of them. After the round, no one carded better than a 70, while once in the running, Patrick Harrington dropped a 78. When that round started, it was clearly going to be a tight event for the leaders, as Woods just didn't have his best stuff on the front 9. Bogeys on 4 and 8 quickly devoured Tiger's tiny 2-stroke lead, while Yang put in a solid shift, making the turn at even par, meaning it would be a straight-up shootout for the trophy as both men sat at 6 under. While it's true Tiger had the lead or share of the lead for that entire week, the big momentum swing came on the 13th hole that day. The hardest par 3 on the course, a teardrop-shaped green hugged by 2 bunkers and a pond on the left. You really couldn't miss anywhere, and miss is what Yang did. This is where Tiger Woods would take advantage, would power up and be him. And he did. He stuck his tee shot to 8 feet while the Korean floundered a little, finding the bunker and giving Tiger not only a chance to go 1 up, but maybe even 2 up if Yang wasn't clinical enough. But the man in white had it while the one in red didn't. Yang stuck his sand shot just outside of Tiger's putt, likely giving Tiger some confidence that he could go 1 stroke up. That is, until Yang sank his putt, keeping him very close and tight on Tiger, maybe a little bit too close, because Woods missed that critical scoring putt. One that could have brought a bit more comfort to the big man in a day where he desperately needed a boost. Tiger just seemed to have some nerves that day in a way no one had seen from him in a very long time. He took extra time between shots, seemed uncertain a lot, leading to the group even getting a scolding from the course official for playing too slow. Years ago, Tiger would have had that something special to hold that putt on 13 and give himself the grace to glide to the finish no matter what his competitors did. But this putt glided Tiger in the exact opposite direction. You could tell from his reaction after missing on 13 that Woods just looked defeated. And once hungry and powerful, the king of golf was green in the face above his Sunday red. And Yang, he took advantage, because I'm sure it did not help how Tiger felt when Yang chipped in for eagle on 14, pushing ahead of Tiger despite his birdie. That made it official. For the first time in his career, Tiger had floundered a 54-hole lead in a major, but there were still 4 holes to play. Only 1 stroke behind, well, anything could happen. 2 pars, 2 bogeys. The pair matched each other shot for shot leading up to 18, and it was all going to come down to the last. 67 holes ahead of the pack had now turned to a Tiger chase down, and after their drives, the viewers probably thought that's what could happen. Tiger sat in a perfect place to push the pin while the leader sat behind a tree. But then Yang hit one of the craziest shots I've ever seen, slinging a 3 hybrid just past a tree to within 5 feet. Tiger hit a very good shot as well. However, it stuck just off the green in some very thick rough. However, it didn't really matter, because Yang made his putt, giving the Korean his only major victory in his entire career, as well as his final PGA Tour victory altogether. From then on, Yang would bounce between the tour, competing down the stretch in majors at some point, but never putting together a run like he had that day, eventually dropping to the Korn Ferry Tour before making a move to the PGA Champions Tour in 2023. I'm not sure if it was Y.E. Yang's mentality that won him the match or Tiger's mentality that lost him the match, but whatever you think, I'm pretty sure the mentalities there were the difference makers in the 2009 PGA Championship. That PGA Championship was incredible. I see it as basically the opportunity for Tiger to claim his prime back, because he played well enough golf to be in his prime, but he made the wrong decisions that day, on top of just not putting well at all when it mattered. Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer of all time, and that wouldn't have happened without his parents. Their unique upbringing created an animal on the course, one who was primed to be the greatest thing for golf since the Mulligan. However, that special upbringing required many things from young Tiger, potentially depriving him of some other luxuries that many of us take for granted. So for any parent maybe looking to build the next Tiger Woods, well, this is a story that all of you probably should know.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
It is my job to prepare you. I trust that I have done the best job that I can. I know you will give it your all, and that you will be my little man forever. Love, Pop.
A lot of parents have tried to raise kids to become incredible athletes, the next great things, and in some instances forced these children to take on challenges that they may otherwise not have been interested in. But that almost certainly wasn't the case for Tiger Woods. From a very young age, it was abundantly clear that he was in love with the game of golf. From everything I can read online, it seems that golf was always the one true love for Tiger, and looking at it at face value, that makes sense. His father was an avid golfer, so why wouldn't the son take to the same obsession of the father? Young Tiger apparently memorized his father, Earl's phone number so that he could call him from work and ask when he would play golf with him at 2 years old.
We have the 9 o'clock starting group, the youngest contestant ever. He's 5 years old. Eldrick Tiger Woods.
So it's clear that Tiger was never forced into this game, forced into this life like so many other people are in their lives. But it is clear that from a very early age, his parents created a very cutthroat plan for him to be the greatest golfer of all time. Whenever Tiger was on the course with Earl as a youngster and he duffed a shot, he would slam his club into the ground like we all do, but with some training from Earl, he learned to hold that back, manage those emotions on the course, to learn how to play angry. And honestly, that's something a lot of golfers could use today. Imagine Rory being able to play while he was fuming. Well, things could have gone a little bit differently for him. Earl and Tita took advantage of Tiger's excitement for this game and taught him and grew with him in a way that could create the sharpest sword, the fastest bullet, the best golfer in the world, and it worked. But they also molded a man who seemed very kind and thoughtful, at least at face value. His parents gave him professional media training from the start, as you saw him on TV at just 2 years old. So he always had the right answers to the correct questions and was seen as the golden boy of golf. He was perfect in the eyes of a lot of people. And that's not to say he wasn't a good person. And on the grand scheme of kids that get pushed to be the best, I guess he wasn't that bad at all. Whenever he was on the course, he would see fans and spend hours with them, taking photos, signing autographs, and being a role model for them. Was he ever the most charismatic guy in the room or on the course? No, probably not, but he was a good man and a good kid, and a lot of the thanks of that goes to his parents. Many other stage parents or coaching parents push their children to the limit to be the very best they can, to do too much. Hollywood has documented this many times, with a great example being I, Tonya, the story of figure skater Tonya Harding, who was easily one of the most talented skaters in the world at that time, but was also kind of allegedly ruined by her mother.
Stop talking to her. That girl is your enemy.
Her mother was very toxic towards her competitors and allegedly abused Tonya, leading to her looking for that in her own relationship, which eventually led to the downfall of her career when her ex-husband orchestrated an attack on one of her competitors. That is a wild story to get into if you ever have the chance, but the essence of it, all of that pushing, well, that can create a lot of toxicity. But Earl and Tita, in their pushing Tiger, or more of leading him on the path, well, they avoided a lot of that. Despite what the title of this video says and what I think a lot of people believe of Tiger's parents, well, Earl wasn't insanely domineering at all, and Tita wasn't wildly strict. They helped Tiger a lot, and they did set boundaries, but I think they were probably very good parents in helping him reach his goals that he very clearly wanted. However, I think in doing that, they also fell short elsewhere. Tiger always seemed to be a pretty shy and introverted person everywhere but on the golf course. There he thrived and was great. His parents witnessed that and helped him funnel that obsession into a powerful tool that would change the game forever. But because he was shy and introverted, the way they raised him, I think, had some unintended consequences on the person that Tiger Woods would become. The evidence of this, to me, starts when Tiger was in high school. According to his girlfriend during those years, Tiger was pretty quiet in school and didn't seem to have a lot of friends.
Because here at high school is where Tiger is at his most private self. It's here where he desperately wants to be like any other 17-year-old junior.
They met in math class, and Tiger one day invited her, Dina, to go to one of his golf tournaments where she was able to see a completely different side of Tiger. From there, they got to know each other a lot better. She helped Tiger open up, and Tiger, maybe for the first time in his life, got to witness what life was like for normal people. Those of us that aren't being molded into whatever machine their parents are trying to make them into. Dina had a loud family that was welcoming, while Tiger had a very quiet and focused home life. But when he went to Dina's, he could escape that a little bit. Dina gave him a glimpse of normality, and for the shy and quiet character that was Eldrick Tiger Woods, well, it was one of the few opportunities for him to actually experience that. She showed that to Tiger, and as he grew up, won all those amateur titles, well, she gave him an outlet, an escape from all of that noise. Eventually, Woods went away to college, did his thing yet again, all the while getting more and more popular than anyone else ever had. But then it all went wrong. One weekend after school, Tiger left Stanford to visit his girlfriend Early and lied to his parents in doing so. The next day, when he went back to his parents' house and he saw them, he told them, and they were infuriated with him and never let him see her ever again. Tiger apparently wrote her a letter ending their relationship in the same way business writing professors today tell us all to address our managers: formal, impersonal, and heartless. At this time, Tiger was an adult, but he was incredibly obedient to his parents in a way that is very admirable, but it's in his obedience and his parents' orders that lost him his only outlet to normality, something that would only get further and further away from him over the next few years.
Tiger Woods Mania, the golf superstar.
Tiger Mania.
Tiger Woods Mania officially has arrived at the Copperhead course.
This is where Tiger Woods became Tiger Woods, where he embarrassed the field as a 21-year-old at Augusta National, set records at Pebble Beach in 2000, and became the most marketable athlete since Michael Jordan. When you reach that level, I cannot imagine there being an ounce of normality in your life, even for someone that was being prepared for that life from day one.
What has been the most difficult adjusting?
For me, the lack of privacy, the loss of privacy. And
all of that fame and nonsense can really get to someone's head, and it has gotten to plenty of famous celebrities' heads, but Tiger was different. He handled it well. Tiger was the golden boy of golf, the guy who could do no wrong. He was perfect in the eyes of a lot of people, and as we all know, that wouldn't last. In 2006, Earl Woods passed away. They had seen it coming for a while, as he had missed watching Tiger win the 2005 Masters due to his illness, but that doesn't mean it affected Tiger any less.
we loved each other so much on so many different levels. Our relationship was very unique and very different because we weren't just a father-son. He was my best friend.
I don't think that right there was Tiger thinking memorably about his father. I genuinely believe that Earl and Tita Woods were Tiger's best friends for a very large portion of his life, and then before that, the most important figures in his life. So when you lose that, well, you lose everything, and Tiger did. I think this entirely threw Tiger's world, his very curated life, into disarray. Around this point is where he allegedly began cheating on his wife, Elin. I want to make it very clear in this video, I will not be defending Tiger or his actions. They're inexcusable. I just want to understand why a character that was so good for so long did something so terrible to such an insane extent. Over the next few years, Tiger cheated on his wife a lot with a lot of different women. But despite what must have been an uncomfortable home life, Tiger was playing arguably the best golf of his life. He had a run from 2006 to 2008 that easily rivals the Tiger Slam from 2000. He was just as on top of the world as he had ever been, but On top of the mess he was creating in his personal life, his body also began giving up on him. Injuries riddled the end of his 2008 season, apparently winning the US Open that year with a torn Achilles and potentially a torn ACL. The guy was a walking hospital bill. With all those injuries, well, that came some prescription drugs and probably some abuse with that as well. His life at that point became so much different to what he was used to. Sometimes laid up somewhere healing, other days working out like a Navy SEAL for some reason, and still cheating on his wife, probably abusing prescriptions, and likely addicted to alcohol. All of that came to a head in 2009 when some of this information leaked to the public and everyone found out that Tiger Woods was cheating on his wife to such an insane extent. It literally broke the news and for many destroyed the reputation of the golden boy that was Tiger Woods. So many people that don't care at all about golf remember this scandal and only know Tiger now for it. But more importantly, why did Tiger Woods do this? The guy who was raised to be kind and thoughtful and considerate by his parents do something so inconsiderate. Well, the biggest thing to me, I think, is that when he was at home in his mansion with Elin and his security around him, well, he was Tiger Woods' golf extraordinaire. But with his mistresses in his car in a church parking lot, he was Eldrick, that same kid from high school doing what a lot of kids do. But Tiger never did. Back when Tiger lost his father, he lost his world, that safe space that was built to create the golfing machine. With that went the structure in his life, and he turned into a different character. But the reason I think there is more to this than Tiger just being a bad guy is that he came out and apologized at the peak of this mess. Yeah, it was scripted. Yes, it was hard to watch, but to me, this shows that he cared about the way kids idolized him. He tried to stand up and take ownership for all of it. Did it work? Did Elin end up forgiving him? No, but he tried. And that's a lot more than you can say for a lot of men and people who were in that situation. However, I think there's more explanation to this whole mess. Something maybe that could have kept all of this from ever happening. And that is where Tiger's high school girlfriend comes back into play. Again, she was his normality, his break from extreme focus, extreme perfection, and she was taken away from him. Sure, maybe you could argue Tiger deserved to lose her since he lied to his parents, or that he didn't care enough about her because he never tried to get her back, but I don't really agree. I think Tiger, just the way he was raised, was always going to be too obedient to his parents and was going to listen to what they say. And so it was up to them to let this happen. If they never put a stop to that relationship, who knows what could have happened. Now, I'm not saying they were bad parents or treated him terribly or anything like that. It's not their fault that he was shy and quiet, but it's in that he was shy and quiet away from the golf world that he would always have struggled away from that world unless he was exposed to something else by someone he cares about, like Dina. But his parents at one point took that away from him in one of his last moments he probably would ever have to be a little normal. I sympathize and can't help but feel like things could have gone differently if he was allowed different experiences. Let me know what you think. I could be entirely wrong here, but thank you guys for watching nonetheless. And if you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. My next video is going to be a banger, but I'll see all of you guys in the next one. Peace.